Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me now. My name is Katarina. And before we continue, if you can just write a quick message. Perfect. I see this is good. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining today's webinar. We are very happy to have you here. As you know, when we do Inspire webinars, we have our colleague Agnes, who is the coordinator of the Inspire-related project for Third Zone. But before I give floor to her to go on with the things that you're interested to hear, just a few notes. For those of you who attend our webinars, you are familiar with this, but we record our webinars, and the recording is available after the session on our webinar page. Also, at the end of the webinar, you can request a certificate. We will let you know how in the chat for those of you who attended the webinar. Participants on this platform cannot use microphone, so practically the main tool for you is the chat. We really encourage you to use it and share your comments and questions. The topics we will hear today are very much relevant for all the countries in the region, in my opinion. And so we really hope that the experience from the two good practices that we will showcase today can be useful for all of you, and that you use the opportunity to have the first-hand experience and contact with those with our presenters to ask any questions you may have about those topics. Of course, as you may know, we will also have a few polls throughout the webinar, so stay tuned, pay attention, and we really look forward to see your replies to the questions. If you have any technical problems during the webinar, you can write to me and Agnes, and we will do our best to assist you. So I will not prolong anymore. I give floor to my colleague Agnes.
Yeah, thank you, Katarina, and hey, hi everyone. As in the previous weeks on the Inspire webinar series, we will have again two presenters and two promising projects related to the Inspire strategies. We will start first with the second strategy on the gender and norms and values, which is an important thing, and it sounds a little bit far away from the violence issues, but it's very close, basically, on it, because norms guide attitude and behavior around child rearing, gender roles, and the acceptability of violence within a group or society. So all efforts to promote positive norms and values and to reduce the impact of harmful ones are an essential part of all Inspire strategies. So we will now talk about the gender roles, the father roles, the boys' role. We brought to you a very, very interesting project and an interesting person from Albania and Kosovo. He's working on the Care International Balkans in a program. We try to challenge the traditional roles of the man, basically. So they are working on the healthy masculinities. They try to reduce the violence within a relationship, within a family. So I will give now the floor to Mr. Besnik Leka, who is a project coordinator for Men Cares program in Kosovo and Albania, and he is also a member of Men Engage Alliance Europe, a network of European organizations involved in engaging men and boys' work. So we are very happy to have him here, and we will have an interesting 20-25 minutes about a very interesting project related to these gender roles. Besnik, the floor is...
Thank you, dear Katarina and Agnes, for the presentation. Can you hear me well? Probably yes. I'm just testing.
Very well, yeah. And for the rest, please write in the chat if you can hear Besnik.
Perfect, yeah.
We don't see your video though, so
yeah.
If you... Okay, perfect. It's coming. Wonderful.
So hi to everybody, and thank you for attending the presentation, the webinar. I'll try to be concise so that you get the most out of the project that I will present. I made as well some slideshow presentation, mostly with pictures and just some information, because I would rather let you see the visual part, and then I will be speaking and explaining the project part. So as they presented me already, my name is Besnik Leka. I work for Care International in the Balkans. And I'm part as well of the Men Engage Europe, and as well I work for other organizations that volunteer that deal with around gender equality topics and working with men and challenging norms of the traditional norms of masculinity. So the project that I'm about to present, as you see it in the slide, is called Young Men Initiative for Gender Equality. The project has started back in 2007 in the Balkan region. So as Care International, we have been working with both men and women as it is part of one of our strategies in promoting gender equality and women empowerment. But for the last decade, our focus was higher around young men and fathers, as we did notice not much presence of men being involved in such topics, and we thought that this would be very useful to involve more men to talk about gender equality and fathers, since we believe this is everybody's responsibility. So our focus our aim was to enable positive and peaceful societies around the Balkan region, as I mentioned, in Serbia, Kosovo, Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina. And with our initial goal was to focus on promoting gender equality. And the second part was on violence prevention, sexual reproductive health and rights. And recently, in the last 3 years, we started to as well learn from our experience. We were focusing as well on preventing violent extremism, as this is a new topic to us, but at the same time, it is a big concern in our region, especially knowing that from our region we had a lot of youth that joined violent extremism. Our target groups initially were like boys and young men. At the same time, we had young women in the projects, 14 to 19 years old. Our focus was to work mostly with vocational technical high schools, as these schools were known with higher or dominance of violence in these schools, but at the same time we had a higher presence of men because of the, I would say, gender stereotypes around the professions, such as in vocational technical schools, we have a higher domination of young men rather than young women. At the same time, one of our goals was as well to work with teachers and school staff, which I will explain later, how this got incorporated in working with ministries of education. At the same time, like we have been working with NGO activists and doing trainings, but at the same time with pedagogy students and journalists and other organizations in working capacity building, and the public, the government sector and Ministry of Education. So why do we work with young men? Like before I talk, as Katarina mentioned, we'll have a pool, if it's on the slide, the questions that I would like to ask. Which of the below following do you think is one of the main causes of early death in young men's lives? So you can have a vote. You have options. One is interpersonal violence, drug abuse and alcohol, suicide, car accidents. So I'll give you a few minutes to vote for this. Okay, so I see like different votes going in different points. But I would like to state that, thank you for voting. I would like to state that actually all of them are the reasons and the causes of early death in young men's life. Now the question is, how does this relate to gender equality? But one of the things as well that we have been working with young men for the last 10 years, we have seen that very often young men in patriarchal societies are not able to share their emotions and talk freely because of the expectation that society has towards them. we have an attempt of suicide higher around young women, but when it comes to young men, usually the action is taken all the way to till the end. And we see that this has a lot to do with them not being able to express their emotions, them not being able to talk freely what they go through, and how sometimes the expectation that society has towards young men, they are not able to fulfill those expectations, which very often this leads to depression, and then later to a suicide rate. As well, the interpersonal violence, which I saw it had some votes, that is another very common thing that we see in the Balkan region especially, that this leads to a lot of increasing violence based on the interpersonal violence men towards other men. One of the reasons is very often that they state is this the need to protect the honor of the family and their society. And the lack of men being able to express their emotions, what they go through, often leads to deconstructive actions that they take that leads to violence. So how do we work? We basically, since we have been working in schools for more than 10 years, as I said, in vocational technical schools, and we have been testing our program. Recently, our program got accredited by Ministries of Education in the all Balkan region, and we have developed a toolkit, which it is available online, but I just would like to share. It's pretty thick toolkit with a lot of materials, all our experience that we have been using in the schools with our program. We realize that it's important to provide the schools with the full program in case they want to adapt the program and as well carry on in their schools. So our toolkit, it contains a manual, which it has around 40 workshops. At the same time, it has guidelines for fundraising for schools and how to implement a campaign and how to do a research, and which I will stop now to talk a bit of the research. While we were implementing the program in schools, because our program was being tested, we wanted to learn ourselves a lot more than society from us, because it was a piloting program. And then we did a baseline research in schools, and then after 3 years of the program being implemented, we did an end line. And then we were able to measure the impact of the program that had in the young men's and lives, and the young girls' lives as well, young women's lives. And then we realized these changes in attitudes, behavior, and their beliefs, and how the violence, gender-based violence, but as well interpersonal violence, has reduced in these schools. Now, since the program has been, as I said again, more than 10 years, we wanted to do a follow-up step with young men that left high school so they continued their education. So we have developed a program for fathers and fathers-to-be. Our goal was to work with fathers-to-be, and the topics were around family planning, household division, caregiving. But at the same time, part of our program, which we have developed and adapted, we got it from Promundo, an organization in Brazil, that and Men Care, that were supporting the program together with Men Engage. We have adapted to the local context to see in what way it's the best use for our society. So the program P, as you see in the screen, for fathers, is to engage young men in fatherhood and caregiving and maternal and child health. It has 3 sections. First section, it's as well related to recommendations for professionals who provide parental care. At the same time, we have recommendation for the health providers in the clinics, since we know that often when couples go and when they expect a baby, it's very important that the doctors that they visit, they have these gender lenses advices which they give. In our society, very often, like when the couple is expecting a baby, usually mother goes with sister-in-law or with mother-in-law. Like, fathers don't partake much at the first steps of the pregnancy. And our goal is to encourage both fathers and mothers to be together and follow the first footsteps, because like if the fathers get used to and get involved from early care of their baby and the family, they will be involved throughout their life, and at the same time how this impacts them. In the middle, we have as well a manual for, it's called Gender Sensitive Training for the Media. So since we use a lot of media, we decided to promote our activities, we often lacked the way media have reported about our program. As much as we want to use media as a tool to promote our program, sometimes they lack, and by using some sexist language or discriminatory language, no matter what the activity is. And we had these cases with media, which we had to react. And then we decided to do a manual for training for media on gender-sensitive language use. Very often when the media reports, and we read reports about gender-based violence, you often see this tendency of media and some journalists and editors where like they leave some room by justifying did the woman deserve to be beaten or to be or the violence to be caused towards her. So that's why we thought of developing this manual where we will be training them on having these gender lenses and being sensitive to the gender topics when they report. So as I mentioned, one of our strongest components are our campaigns. Now you see on the screen the program Y. As I said, we have been working for a decade with towards focusing more around young men. And this was an eye-opener for us to see the invisibility of men suffering from patriarchal societies. And we believe that as much as feminism needs men, when we had the campaign He for She, we believe that men need feminism too. And men can learn a lot on how to challenge these patriarchal norms where everybody in society would benefit. So just last year, we started working with mixed gender groups with both young men and young women. Our campaigns have been called mostly like it's called BMN, and then we would change the slogans with like BMN show emotions, BMN fall in love, because again these were the topics that men were afraid kind of to touch upon. So again, some examples of our from our media. We have, for example, one of the things that we did see that where do our boys get mostly influenced were they were influenced from rappers, from music industry, from VIPs and people that are involved in sports. And very often, sometimes we lack to have a good role models of these people that are in these fields where we would use them to promote such values. So then in Kosovo, we had an example. We used one of the rappers, and we talked with this rapper, and then we ended up producing a song and the lyrics, which it relates to young men's life and promoting more peaceful masculinity. So with this rapper, we managed to create a video clip, and then we made this song very famous by spreading and sharing the song. And like for a very short period of time, it got more than 2 million clicks and views. And later, after like 3 months, we got 5 more rappers approaching us and wanting to do such songs with such topics. And then this was very interesting to see that, with small action that we took with this rapper, we were able to kind of impact music industry, not to say change, because change is a big word for music industry, because we still see what sometimes gets promoted, but at least we're happy that after the song that we created, a few more rappers actually followed our footsteps and created songs with very interesting values and not as they would do before using discriminatory or sexist language. Another thing that we is one of our strong components is as well the play, which is called Macho Man. This one they did the young man with our partner organization in Belgrade, where this play became very famous, and more than 20,000 people and 112 times was played this play around the globe with English subtitles. I don't know, maybe some of you were lucky enough to have seen it, but it's still touring around, so maybe you will have a chance later to see it. Another small pictures we see here, there is a football tournament that was organized for girls, and our boys in the project were the cheerleaders. So this was an idea that came from young men, because what they learn in school from our manuals, the idea is for them to create a campaign and put in practice. So they did a football tournament for girls, and the boys were the cheerleaders, and this got, again, a lot of media attention, seeing that, how we decided to change these roles and try to promote, a diverse group where everybody can play and everybody can be a cheerleader. So Yeah, and then we have some other campaigns. One of them is that we have been targeting bystanders, which is called React as Human, because from a lot of research that has been done, we have seen that around 70% of violence happens in front of people's eyes. So our idea was to engage bystanders. So one of the campaigns is called React as Human. And then we made different slogans that we put these posters, and we created awareness in the community, in the streets, where we wanted to encourage bystanders to raise an alarm, to report the cases of violence without putting themselves at risk, but at the same time, being cautious, but at the same time, not letting violence happen and leaving it there. Or like as often we say here, if the violence happened between couples, that's a family issue. And that's why people sometimes don't want to get involved. And our idea is like to be involved and to inform like institutions or use any safer way. The other one, it's about Super Dad. This one we have developed as well with our fathers, and we have chosen 3 topics of the campaign with fathers. One of them was like be proud and show it. We wanted to encourage fathers to be proud of their family and show love and care. Because again, through the research shows that fathers that are involved in their young children's lives, they seem to smoke less, drink less, at the same time visit less the therapist. Because again, this emotion sharing with their kids, it's actually beneficial for the fathers at the same time, to be engaged in the family. And another one was like just play, share games, be with your kids, and the third one was like be brave and show affection. This was one of the issues in our fathers group where we work. Many of the fathers said that they are feared to grab their babies or put them in their lap or show love and affection because they get judged and their masculinity is being tested by the society. So this was one of the focus that we have been working as well with fathers, apart from the trainings that we do regularly with them. So another pool and an activity for us. Which one of the below emotions young men express the least in the patriarchal society? So we have anger, love, fear, happiness, and kindness. So which one do you think young men show the least? Okay, so we see that it's around fear and love and kindness, while other people are voting. Actually, fear is one of the least sharing emotions. When we talk to young men and we ask them to rate which of the emotions you would show more freely and which one you would not show or show less, usually fear is one of the emotions that they don't show. And the reason is like they're afraid to feel fear. Because again, as men, they always think that they're supposed to be ready to react to different situations. And one of the emotions they show more freely is anger. And again, this has to do because very often they're faced with anger. They see it in media, they see it in the family, they see it in society, they see it in their neighborhood. So this was like one of the reasons we wanted to work with them for them to express their emotions more freely. Now we can imagine if a young man fears to show fear, what do we learn, what they go through. So, as I mentioned, we did baseline and endline. There is this gender index that shows the difference between in the beginning of the project at the end of the project. And this gender index was, gender roles index was mostly related to the household division. At the same time, one of the questions was a woman's most important role is to take care of the home and cook for the family. Changing diapers, bathing, and feeding kids are the mother's responsibility, and a man should have the final word in his home. So again, these are the disagreements where, like we have from Banja Luka 18 to 26, Pristina 22 to 39. So we have seen this impact that we had in young men's life after 3 years, that they disagree with such statements. Same happens with cooking and cleaning the house. I'm going to skip this because of the timing. So another thing, just quickly to mention, this is another table where we did see rates of sadness, stress, anxiety, and depression and suicidal thoughts from baseline to endline. So this has gone the opposite. And then when we sat and talked with young men why this was not positively impacted, and most of them said that, like, again, in the baseline, they didn't share much of their thoughts. Like when they had suicidal thoughts, they would never share it with anybody. That's why this often happened, that they took the action all the way to the end. But now they were open to share them, and that's why we have an increase in the end line. And before I open for the question, this is the last slide where we have won this Global Education Innovation Award 2 years ago with our Young Men Initiative project. At the same time, we have one global festivals on film, which one of the young men created a film based on his story, how he grew without a father and how he was violent and how later he became the educator towards the other friends. So thank you. I try to keep it short, and I'll be open up for questions if somebody has anything.
Okay, we see a few people are typing. Feel free to ask anything in the chat.
While people are typing, I would just like to say that the website is here, youngmeninitiative.net, where all the manuals, materials, and research that we did and campaigns, they're all available online. You just go to the website, you select English language, and then you go to the resources and you get all the materials. They're open source. Okay, so the first question is by Agnes. What are the biggest challenges since you started the project? I think one of the first challenges was like to engage men to promote gender equality, because it was hard to explain to that privilege, as I say, is invisible for those who have it. So like as a young man, they had some privileges, and it was hard to convince them to join the project. But then we had as well to explain, as I said, the other part, how patriarchy harms men too, and how they should stand against patriarchal society. So I think being able to introduce the program and getting young men interested in the program, this was a challenge. But then later, because of the changes that they went through, we did see this importance. I mean, other men saw it as important to join the program, and that's why now our program is pretty wide in the region. Yeah, so again, the other question is similar to the first. So again, like to me, my biggest surprise was as well to see how fathers were interested. My first group with fathers, when I had, when they joined the program, I thought, okay, they came first time, they were happy, but second time they might not come. And the second time they doubled in the numbers. And I was so happy to see so many fathers join the program. And the second time I gave them some homework. And third time when they came, like, there were some simple homework, like, to show more affections or to cook in the family. And the third time when they came, many fathers shared how good it felt to cook for their kids, which, and one of the fathers said, actually, I never told my son I love you. So after 4 years, I took the courage to tell him. So, and he felt so good. So you just have to find the ways and how to introduce a program to them so they show the eagerness. Yeah, so as self-sustainable groups, I mean, as CARE, we work with 8 local partner organizations. We managed to create these resource centers where the young men would go there and spend their time in these local organizations and, develop ideas in the project. But at the same time, as I said, like in schools, we got our program accredited. And in Bosnia and Herzegovina, our program is mandatory. Like Ministry of Education made it mandatory. So 25% of head teachers' classes use our program in schools. So now that's our goal. Like, as I said, we created this toolkit, which right now it has around 600 pages, and we're going to keep on adding materials that we think are interesting for the schools. And we really are hoping we did train a lot of teachers in the region, and now we want slowly this program to pass it on to the schools, and we'll be there to build their capacities. I'll wait, I guess, for a few more questions.
Okay, let's take one more question like this, and then if you have, Beshnik will stay for a few until the end of the webinar with us. So if you still have questions for him, you can type in the chat, and he will reply you in the chat. Okay, here is the last question.
This is a very good question. I like it. So I'm going to try to how we came to media. Like in Kosovo, I love to cook. So I was at the MasterChef TV show, and then there was they would offer a prize if you win the whole MasterChef show. And I did not manage to win it, but I went to some levels, and they asked me, "What would you do with money?" I said, "I would teach boys from the project to cook, and we will go in the street and give food for free, and saying that men can cook too." And then we did it. Even though I did not win the prize, the media loved my idea, so they sponsored the idea. We were around 40 boys that we learned how to cook from our parents. And the next day, for International Human Rights Day, we went in the street and gave food for free and saying, we as men can cook too, let us cook. Because sometimes there is this struggle, should we let men in the kitchen? And then the media went and said, they put a big title saying, be a man club boys or good women chefs. In Albania, we have a word for women and for men, chef. As in English, it's just one word. And then our boys were very much devastated. We're like, and some of them were very emotional. They were like, what we try to do is completely the opposite of what media is saying. So then we had to make phone calls to this media for 2 hours to put the title down. But then they thought this title is interesting and nice for readers. And we're like, no, it's not, because it doesn't represent what we do. And then they changed the title, and we're like, okay, we have to work with media. We have to work with media on gender-sensitive language use. We have to work with media to promote the right values, not to put something that they think is interesting and for like. So this one was one of the tricky point where, it made us work with media, and this is why sometimes we have these challenges with them. But right now, we have good media that have been trained and that they're following the work and giving good reports. Thank you as well for being good listeners.
Thank you. Thank you, Beshnik. It was so interesting to listen to you. So we enjoyed it really much. And I have still some questions in my mind, but I now give the floor also to others. So stay with us, and you can ask also Beshnik during the second speaker. And also in the web links box, you can find the links to the materials that Beshnik said. So please click on it, and you can go there. And now we are in a very lucky situation that we have an other strategy speaker. We will speak now about the fifth INSPIRE strategy, which is about the income and economic strengthening. Because the UN agency is preparing the INSPIRE strategies, they were quite conscious about the fact that family economic stability and secure empowerment reduce the risk factors of violence and increase protective ones. So it's a very interesting issue came up with the financial ones, and we are now happy to welcome Ms. Zsetona Miteveli, who is a psychotherapist, a facilitator, a wonderful person who is running a not that small but a really good project in Albania called Proceed, which is a sustainable economic and regional development, employment promotion, vocational education and training.
Thank you,
so it's quite long,
Agnes,
but she will talk about
thank you, Katarina. Actually, it was really great
in the next 20 minutes.
The presentation of Beshnik. It was really inspiring and also making me thinking and reflecting. Now going back to the income and economic strengthening, I really feel pleased and honored to share my experience. And actually, I am implementing one component or one part of the Proceed program. Proceed is a project of GIZ and actually has like 3 main pillars. One is on vocational education, one in the private sector, and the other one on innovation. The second pillar that is on business development and support of private sector, they have two components. They have one that it is mainly on support of the existing businesses, and another one on the support of the startups and startup promotion. And the last, it is called IDEA. And actually, I am coordinating that project that it is called IDEA, that stands for Innovative Development for Entrepreneurs in Albania. It is a project that, let's say, had a small, let's say, pilot project in 2016, and then from 2017 has started full-fledged all over country in Albania. And last year there were trained like 400 people. But before going there, so I just wanted to clarify how it is a German investment, but implemented by two German companies, consulting companies, Care International and PEM Consult. To bring a background on, let's say, the development of Albania, and when it comes to not only the component of economic development, market economy, but also democracy and governance, I would like to share the scheme, the graph prepared by the Bertelsmann Stiftung Transformation Index, which shows how Albania is doing. It is from the end of 2018, the sketch, and shows that how Albania is progressing. And it seems that we are, let's say, having some progress in all the areas, but we have still a lot of issues to handle and to tackle. And when it comes to economic development, looks that it goes smooth, but there are many underlying issues. As a background, I wanted to bring also to connect, let's say, the economic development and let's say, issues related to the violence and the action plans or policies in Albania related to the violence. I took the data, and there you could see that the violence is present, and in a different, let's say, kind of violence, like interpersonal violence, sexual violence, child maltreatments and stuff. And in the end, you can see also how the data on violence are, let's say, the prevalence in Albania. Albania still remains the poorest country in Europe, and same time, in the EU, let's say, report of the 2018, Albania is doing a lot of progress when it comes to the legal framework, but it is a lot of, let's say, impeding in the part of the implementation or law, respecting law and implementing the law. And then especially when it comes to the violence, to human rights, to minorities, and to marginalized groups. So we all face maybe similar realities in the Balkans, but this is also the reality in Albania, that it is good to have a, let's say, a good legal framework, but it is also the need to be able to enroll the legal framework. Now I'd like to go back to the, I don't know if you can see, but I can't see the full slide here. Katarina, Agnes, can you help me? Hello, Katarina.
Hi, we just see the.
You see only the three pictures or the full, also the text?
Yes. The text is very, we cannot read it. So we see that there is something, but we cannot read it.
Okay, then I will bring the.
If you just quickly explain us what was meant,
yes, I do.
And of course, the presentation for everybody else, the presentation will be available on the website after the webinar, so you can check it. It worked before, but I don't know what is with
Thank you, no problem. Okay, the three pillars. So where you see the guy, let's say, like intending to write something in the box, there I have explained a little bit about what is CEFE methodology. So that IDEA project is applying for the promotion of entrepreneurship. The figure related to the feature of the man with these two engranages. It is about the principles of learning, and the last, the handshaking, is about the impact. So if I go to the first, I would like to highlight the fact that the IDEA project aims to promote entrepreneurship, and the main focus is the implementation or application of the CEFE methodology. CEFE methodology is a methodology that is related to the bringing concepts and combining theory and practice, but it is very highly participatory. And actually, we don't have lectures. There are no PowerPoints. CEFE methodology brings people in a group, but they are put it in like business situations, but in a safe environment, like in a class. And then people have to experience situations like planning, like producing, packaging, selling, putting prices. And normally the methodology, because as in life, often when we are not well prepared to enter in a certain area, we might fail. And then it is a base of reflecting what I can do different. And normally the methodology offers another moment where the participants have a chance to reconsider what they can do different and do differently, and then perform better. So they get the learning via complete deep experiences, engaged even emotionally. So, and it is the methodology that could be used for a different kind of stakeholders. So could be used for, let's say, people in business, could be used for educated people with university degrees or less, but could be also used for illiterate. Could be used for people that have very kind of basic of concepts. So the exercises that are used in the CEFE methodology create a lot of flexibility in being applied in a different levels with different groups. And the concept of the training is based in, let's say, two main parts. One part is about basic skills, basic entrepreneurship skills, where the participants have a moment of exposure to, let's say, what is the personality of entrepreneur, what kind of characteristics an entrepreneur shall have in order to enter in this world. Or it is like a check of, do I fit in the world of being an entrepreneur, or better I try to find a job and get some monthly salary. So this is the first module, and normally in our project, because it is conceived as a business plan competition, some of the people are selected to continue, and the others that do not fit in this kind of personality, also according to some, let's say, other criteria, like their participation, their engagement, and the quality of the inputs, a number of people are, let's say, invited to continue. The second part of the training that is based on advanced business competencies, we call, which is a business plan preparation, like a narrative part related to the product development, definition of the product, defining the clients, and then product market share, market survey. The basic concept is the lean canvas, which is based in the understanding that each business addresses a problem. So it's not that everybody comes with an idea that, okay, I can start my own business. The coffee shop looks very, let's say, blossoming in Albania. Let's have another coffee shop. No. What kind of problems my business could address? And then the last module is about the financing plan, the financing logic, and how people, even with big ideas, could start small. We have instruments that say that people can adjust their big ideas starting small and smooth. And secondly, I would like also to mention, so in Albania, it is for individuals, the project, let's say, support individuals and teams. And teams could be also a couple, like a family, but also friends or people that like to work together. In Venezuela, we have an experience of working with couples and family businesses, like father and son and mother and daughter. So this about the CEFE methodology. If someone has any question or would like to, let's say, ask something, just is invited to take maybe writing and come to, let's say, to address the question. When I can continue, and if I receive questions, I stop. And then when we talk about the philosophy of the methodology, is this adult learning principles. We call it CASH. It stands about knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. And the highest level is when you reach through experience that people introduce new skills, but these skills become as a habit. So this is the whole understanding behind. And as in real life, when you fail, everybody experiences really deep emotions. And normally during the exercises, it is, let's say, a time dedicated to address the emotions. So after this phase that we call it like an action phase, where the participants have a task or assigned tasks, and they have to perform, then by the end, the whole data, the publication of the whole results is presented to the whole group. So each of them could see how each of us performed. And in that way, a lot of dynamics and a lot of emotions are, let's say, waking up. So we try to address them. How do you feel? And I can tell that it is not easy for the participants to share their knowledge, their emotions. They easily come to the rational. They cheated, this is not fair, where they did it in that way, or all kind of reasoning, but it is sometimes very difficult to reach to the level of emotions, which, let's say, the CEFE methodology, even aiming to improve, let's say, business skills, influence not only the situation of managing, let's say, a stormy emotional moments and challenging moments, but also how to address them in a team when they fail as a team, and how to be aware of themselves and how to interconnect with the team. Is there any question till now? Shall I wait for a moment, or? Is it everything clear? Okay. Even going through the challenges, the participants get also the possibility to have another round to prove that they can improve and they can succeed. And this positive reinforcement creates them, let's say, the possibility that they remain with these skills and with this reflection. And when it comes to the impact, the first impact of the methodology, of the training methodology, is related to the strengthening entrepreneurship personality, like taking the risks, not giving up, being aware about the client's demand, but as well like improve self-awareness. So everybody becomes more in touch with themselves to understand how they react, and also improve their self-confidence. It is a moment where everybody can demonstrate their skills and their capabilities. And in that way, this creates a lot of reconfirmation or sometimes confirmation of some of the doubts that participants during the life didn't really address. And because of the assignment that they have to address, all participants, they get also know-how about the problem solving, and then they address this. So they have to, let's say, apply several times abilities on problem solving, which in the end really improve their problem solving capabilities. They develop better communication because they have to address teams and women and men in different groups, and also the relationships. And in the same time, because of the big number of people that IDEA project address, they create also a connection. So they create relationships with maybe new friends, but also with business partners related to the same sector or complementary in a value chain sector. And CEFE, by the end, after the impact assessment that we have done also in 2016, they confirmed that the training facilitates easy collaboration and facilitates like a teamwork together. And also many of them, let's say, highlight also the relationship between men and women. Several times we have used to have in our trainings also people that come like husband and wife, or brother and sister together, and you could see how also their relationship develop and strengthen. Okay, I checked no raised hand, it's no question, so I can continue with talking, or shall I? Any question?
Continue, and then we can, whoever has a question, you can write it in the chat and we can address them at the end.
Yeah, great, that would be great. Yeah. And then another thing that I would like also to share is also how in, let's say, in a steps, a structure of, let's say, the support of income generation influence the violence and influence the quality of the relationship and confidence of the participants. I've put it here a scheme, a small scheme with a number of steps. So in our IDEA project, everybody is, let's say, invited to participate. So it is their own responsibility to apply and to join IDEA. It is not that people are individually integrated into the IDEA. But in other components, we have also a component for the special target groups, like vocational education courses. The participants are invited in a specific way. And also in the case of the Venezuela, they were couples were invited to join let's say, CEFE training and improve their business skills. So the identification of cases goes both in a way that they are applied and they are identified, or when they are identified and invited to join the trainings and to be part of it. The good thing of, let's say, GIZ support in Albania currently is that beside the training and improving the business skills and the coaching for producing a business plan, it exists also an IDEA granting scheme, which where all the participants with a good, smart business plan could apply for getting funds. That they are like 4,000 euro, up to 4,000 euro for individuals, and up to 7,000 euro for teams. That could be couples or above a team of 2 people. And the integrated support, it is a combination of intervention when they attend a professional school and they join vocational education and they would like to increase the, let's say, their employability and they want to start their own business. And another important part that I'd like to discuss and to stop is about the assessment of the couple, or assessment of the people that would like to start a business. We have a methodology that says four components that are motivation. So it is really important for us to see how motivated people are and how serious they consider becoming an entrepreneur and being engaged in that. And this is also assessed with an interview earlier when it is special target groups, so in the vocational education. But then it is the first module where we assess this. Abilities, so what kind of abilities they have as an entrepreneur and what kind of skills they could use to start a business. About business idea, the first module helped the participants a lot to elaborate their own business ideas. What would be the right business idea? Often they come with some rough ideas or some ideas, but maybe not very serious to become true. And then while they attend a number of exercises, they consolidate their idea. And sometimes, because of being in a group, they listen the pitching of the other people, other participants, and in that moment they could also gain more, let's say, inspiration and consolidate their own ideas. And resources, it is always the best way to connect with what everyone has. So it is not only about their own skills and capabilities, but also if they own a piece of land or if they have different kind of resources. Active engagement, everyone, let's say, is in the driving seat. All the participants, they are in the driving seat and they take the responsibility for let's say, consolidating their product, defining the product, the market, exploring who are the clients and how we'll reach them. And conditions, often it is related in number of experiences, is related with, let's say, that the family commits to take kids in the school, or how the family will be, let's say, continuing the business, and different kind of other structures. There, I could say that we had also people that were, let's say, in a moment of divorcing, while because of being part of the training and being part of the supporting scheme, by the end they didn't anymore thought of divorcing, but they considered it not opening one business, but later on they both, husband and wife, managed their own kind of little businesses. Monitoring and follow-up. We know that the life of an entrepreneur, it's not easy, and it is also difficult. And fear and anxiety could often come to people that engage in an activity that has also a high level of risk. So we provide coaching and also sharing platforms for all the participants to have the possibility not to be alone. So the coaching is not only during the process of developing the business plan, but also during the process of implementing their business idea. And then the sharing successes and challenges, another platform of reducing anxiety and stress, is also the platforms of sharing and getting to know each other. In our case, it has been very strong, the sharing platforms that are also related to the value chains. So the platforms that are related to the people that have, let's say, a complementary kind of businesses. So people that works in tourism, they connect someone that produce boats, someone that have a guest house, another one that produce handicraft. They come together, or someone that is a tour guide comes together. So they have also like a kind of club, and in the same time they have a platform for paying visits to the businesses of each other, and also sharing their stories and telling how they managed, how difficult it was and how did they manage. So here I think I took it longer than expected, but I would like also to highlight some of the impacts that the income generation support provide. First of all, it is the financial independence. It creates the possibility for self-employment opportunities for women and men, and also to become independent. And then in our, let's say, little surveys, but not finalized yet, we have the information that 60% of the businesses are led or managed by women. And this increases very much the role of women in decision-making, in managing resources in the family, but not only, also in the business. And in addition, we know that 40% of the businesses managed by couples improve their communication, decision-making process, and the ability to solve their conflicts and problems. And strengthen the trust in couple and also in a team, and enable better relationships in family, business partners, and society. So this is like an overall. I am ending here, and I would like to address questions that, or let's say issues to be clarified that maybe came up in your mind while listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope everybody's still with us, and please feel free to ask any questions you may have. For me, it was very interesting to listen, and it was very interesting this last part where you touched upon on how basically taking part in this kind of programs improves the family relations, because of course this is one of the preconditions if we are aiming to reduce violence in family. It's to have healthy relationships, to know how to address disagreements. And I really like this example that you mentioned, that in the end a husband and wife just decided to go with the different businesses, because why should we think just because it's a marriage that both people should think the same? This is also normal. And coming from this region, I can understand how this can be really beneficial for improving the relations among the parents, and of course this has impact on the whole family. But I'm very curious to see what others think. I see here that we have a question from Judith. How much could you include marginalized population groups, communities?
Actually, in our project, I could say that we have had also Roma minorities, and I can tell you that one of them started. He had an experience of migration in Greece and worked in a washing company, and now he owns his own company, offering this kind of washing and cleaning, not only for not for domestic services, but for the businesses. So I can't tell you right now with a percentage, but I can tell you that more than 15%, even in the IDEA international competition, were marginalized groups. I'll put it in that way.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Also,
Thank
like
you.
specific kind of groups, like vocational education courses are mainly on marginalized groups, and also we also have, let's say, focus in specific areas like very remote, and offering trainings in these remote areas that they are also with marginalized groups. And I can tell you that sometimes we intended once to have a group only with women, but then it ended up to be with men and women, because some women were not allowed to attend alone the courses. And then during the training, in some exercises, women performed really better than men. So men were in a deep failure with minus a lot, while women were in positive values and profit. And then men were so shocked to see where they were. So they were like saying, but we are worried about women in the real life, how they will manage. So even when you are in such a safe environment, you could see the struggle that they have to handle it, sometimes in front of each other. But this kind of publication where everybody could see how each of them perform, it enables also everybody to become more aware. My wife, she has more values that I am estimating or confirming in front of her.
Mm-hmm. This is very interesting, and before I give the floor to Agnes, it's very interesting. It relates back to the first presentation, and basically what in our society we what kind of pressure we put on men and what we expect them to deliver, and then later if it shows that it's different, they feel like failures just because it's a disassumption. Yeah, sorry.
Just a quick question that I enjoyed very much your presentation again, but I'm just wondering that perhaps do you have any experience with families who you know that they are struggled with violence within the family and then was involved in the program and then it changed, or it's not that
in
obvious?
In this IDEA project we work with very big numbers. So we had 400 people last year. This year we had more than 1,300 applicants. And we will address 600. So it's very high. I know some of the stories, and sometimes because when we have couples in trainings, they also like to be in the same group. So I can tell you the struggle is because normally you have a plenary, we normally invite like 50 people. And they are in a plenary together, and then they separate, 25 in one room and 25 in the other room. And sometimes man and wife, because of the logistics, they end up in different groups. And then you see the husband coming and say, listen, I would like that my wife comes to my group. And we invite them to say, it might be richer that you both stay in two different groups and then you share and give these stories into each other. So also stimulating, like not only during the training, but also after, they could have some more kind of exchange and sharing together. So I can give you different moments, and I can tell you that when they come in the morning, that you could see that it is some tension, and they say that we had a quarrel or blah blah blah. But I didn't have till now. I don't have let's say the data to confirm that I knew this couple that was in a divorcing, and they came and they went through this. But I cannot. And I told you I had an inspiration from Judith that I'm considering my further studies in this area. So maybe in the near future, I could come with more concrete information and not only few examples.
Great.
Wonderful, and thank you very much. And many thanks to all of you who stayed with us almost 10 minutes over the time. You will see now a few last polls that we have for you, and we will stay online for a few more minutes. If you have any questions, you can write in the chat. But for all of you who attended the webinar today, if you would like to receive a certificate, you can just write us on this email, which you can see in the chat, and we will reply sending you a certificate of attendance for the webinar. Once again, many thanks to both of our speakers and to all of you who were with us today. Please make sure to sign up for a Childhub newsletter and to stay informed about the upcoming activities. For the time being, I can just say we will have a very busy March, and we really hope you will enjoy the topics and everything that we are preparing.
Thank you for inviting.
Thank you very much.
It's really inspiring.
Have a nice day, everybody. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.